Let's dive straight into it. On Sunday evening, Kenya opposition leader Raila Odinga protested or organized a protest over soaring living costs and alleged rigging of a 2022 presidential election. Now, if you remember vividly, there were disputes about the presidential election results, and they took it to court, and the court denied that Raila Odinga won the election. But since then, he has been planning a protest, which he eventually organized, although he said it wasn't going to be a violent protest. And eventually, Ruto had to call him for dialogue for them to settle down and talk about it with the government. Now, the move came after President William Ruto has urged Odinga early on Sunday to halt demonstrations, which he said have led to 3 deaths and more than 400 injuries, including to security personnel. However, now both sides, Ruto first says, even though there will be dialogues, there will be no handshake. Now, if you don't understand what handshake means, I mean, I was privileged to be on the breakfast show yesterday, and one of our guests was able to dissect that and said that in Kenya, what a handshake means in government basically is partnership. So if you shake hands with an opposition, it means that you will now start working together. A lot of people won't see it that way, but Ruto is saying that even though there will be dialogue, there will be no handshake. On the other hand, Odinga accepted Ruto's invitation for dialogue, but then he warned that the strikes could resume within a week should the talks fail. Take a look at this.
We have met and listened to a diverse group of Kenyans, including religious leaders from all faiths, about the crisis facing our country today. They have implored us to give dialogue, especially during these holy periods of Easter and Ramadan. It is in this context that we make this counter-offer to Hon Ruto's call for dialogue.
And that was the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, speaking there and calling for a pause, I would say it that way, in the protest. And the irony of this is that before the election even started, they both agreed to shaking hands, as Blessing had said earlier, because that is a way of saying, okay, you know what, you won, and let peace continue, and let's just find a solution to the issues bedeviling the nation. But of course, over time, we've seen since on the 20th of March, this week making it the 3rd week, and of course, it has been halted. A lot of protest has been ongoing about the cost of living in Kenya. Let's look into this further, because we need to talk about what has happened, what are the casualties that Kenya has recorded, how has this protest even yielded any fruit at all? And joining us to discuss this is public policy analyst Maliba Arnold Jajai. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Let's just go to the meat of. Firstly, are you in Kenya?
Yes, I am in Kenya, in Nairobi.
Okay, please, are you safe first?
Well, Kenya is actually very relaxed. There's not so much. Guys actually are traveling, going back for Easter. Everything is calm. We've seen a lull in the last couple of days since the demonstrations were called off. But even when the demonstrations were there, they usually were during the day, and in the evening we will go back to doing what everybody does.
Okay, it seems Kenya is safe. And will it be safe to say that they took a pause to celebrate the Easter?
Yes, actually, looks like it's a temporary pause, but you can actually see a little bit of tremors here and there, because what we have seen in the last few days are people from both sides, that is the government side and the opposition side, taking hardline stances, introducing new demands. In fact, yesterday there was a statement to the effect that the opposition did not want a parliamentary system as suggested by the president.
I think we're having... Are you still with us? Arnold? Okay, while we wait for Arnold to sort his audio there, Blessings, this is happening. It's almost as if the leaders here are becoming Oliver Twist, just like the 5 for 5 demand that happened during the NSAS protest.
Yeah.
There's a new demand every now and then. They keep coming up with something new. But I'm more concerned about what this means for the average Kenyan on the street. If the protest was about the cost of living, it's not like it has improved now. So what exactly has the protest achieved?
I mean, I think that I would say that I'm surprised at the fact that a lot of people are joining in the protest because they believe that it's for the cost of living. Like they always say, sometimes when politicians do something, there's always a hidden agenda, right? The fact that, I mean, I'm not saying Raila Odinga doesn't have good intentions, but the fact that the Azimiola Muja leader is the one leading this protest, you should know that his main aim is because he felt that the government was taking away from him. I don't think that he's as passionate as, you know, what the cost of living is doing to the Kenyans as people think he is. And the earlier people focus on that, the better. If that is what they're protesting for, then they should face it. Because if they're protesting with Raila Odinga, then I think that they are having two different intentions. But at the end of the day, we're going to find out what effect it's having, because we still have our guest who is still with us. Thank you, Maliba, for staying tuned. Can we just confirm that we have your audio?
Can you get me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to build on to the point you were initially executing, that what the opposition has done was to build up on the anger that was there, but not necessarily because they believed in the cost of living. Looking at how the first statement by the opposition on the day the president offered an olive branch, the cost of living did not feature prominently. I think it was a one-liner in their statement. They had all other demands taking priority, and the cost of living, which is actually dear to the people who are going to the streets, in the back burners of their statement, it wasn't a priority. And that just goes to demonstrate that for Raila, this is so much about the delayed pain, because before last year's elections, he actually promised that he would accept the outcome. So did the president at that particular time. But then after the elections, of course, he refused the results, and then, of course, went to the Supreme Court. And from the Supreme Court, he still did not accept the verdict from the Supreme Court. So we are at a place where, from where we sit now, the leader of opposition has come up with ways to build up a momentum. First of all, they launched what they call a whistleblowers report. And the whistleblowers report, the police says, is actually a fabrication by a section of the opposition coalition that was actually done in Dubai. That from Western Kenya went to Dubai with a small team. They built up a fabrication using both the data from the IBC, what the IBC had made public, and then corrupted that, and that is what they are calling the whistleblowers report. That essentially was what initially Raila used to deny the legitimacy of this particular government, and thereafter gave a 14 days ultimatum with a little bit of demands, and that has brought us here. But then for Raila, you realize that this is not a new way of doing things. He's done this before. From 1997, he ran first in 1997, I think, when he was just in his early 40s. He denied the results. In the year 2002, he didn't run, but sided with one end. In 2007, he ran for elections as president. Of course, that was the disputed Kenyan elections where 1,300 people died. He lost, but then at that particular time, we ended up having a government of national unity. In 2013, he ran for president, came second, disputed it, went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not grant his wishes then. Of course, he did not agree with the Supreme Court and called it names. In 2017, and at that particular time, of course, the Supreme Court sided with him and said that the election hadn't been done well. And for the first time on the African continent, a Supreme Court actually the former president Kenya.
Maliba, are you still with us?
Okay, we don't have Maliba anymore, but he was making quite a point there, and the record shows for itself, or speaks for itself, as we would say it. This is not the first time Raila has been opposing. Whenever he is the one who has suffered a defeat, opposition, saying that the election was not conducted properly. But how come people can't just see beyond this, beyond the fact that I don't want to put words, I don't want to say it in a particular way, but how is weaponizing what is what people are going through right now in terms of the standard of living and everything, just to suit his own agenda. How difficult is that? Because it's not like nothing has changed. It's not like anything has changed. Rather, for the average Kenyan person, they're still buying what they buy at the same price. Even now, it's even worse because most shops are now opened. Some shops have been looted. Some people, they've been robbed, and a lot of things are still ongoing.
Well, I mean, I would say two things, right? One is that Raila Odinga has his own strategies, right? And that's why it takes me back again to the fact that I am surprised that people do not see beyond him as a figure. They just feel like he's representing their interests. And
for me personally, I feel he's looking desperate.
Well, so that's the thing, right?
And we have figures like this across Africa, you know, right?
No, that one is a standard, right? And the truth is, like I say, it's not the person who is implementing the evil. I'm not saying he's evil. I'm just saying, I mean, in the general sense, it's not the person who is doing the evil that is to be blamed. It's the people that are so gullible and vulnerable to be taking along with the evil.
But you know, the blame can't really be passed as well, because it's almost like when you're being inflicted by something, you're going through something.
Yeah, so it's not a case of passing blame. It's just a case of Africans opening their eyes, because this is no longer a Kenyan thing. It is an African trend, right? If I have concerns, if I have issues, and you want to pose as someone representing my issue, and I see that your interests differ from mine, then I should be able to know that something else differs. But anyways, we'll have that conversation now. We're told that we have Maliba back with us. Maliba, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. The internet keeps on dropping. Unfortunately, I'm not working from home. I was on my way home, so I stopped somewhere to actually just work around this. So a little bit, the internet is not stable. I'm sorry for that.
Okay. It's so good to have you back. This is the angle I really want to hear from you. The average Kenyan on the street, what exactly is the condition right now? Because if I'm going to rate based on what I've seen so far on the internet and based on what we've read and what we've heard as well, it's not like things have gotten any better for the average Kenyan. Meanwhile, the opposition leader is still raising his flag and still raising momentum about the fact that things needs to be better. But does it look like he's in sync with the needs or the core, the clamor from the people?
On 27th, 28th, and 29th of June last year, that is 2022, the opposition leader now then had an arrangement, was working together with the former president. The cost of living was much higher than it is. The numbers were actually up there. But then Raila Odinga and his running mate, Martha Karua, did a series of press conferences actually defending the government then. It's less than a year since they actually made those particular statements defending the government, and they actually told people that the cost of living was incidental to what was happening across the country, the world. There was the issue in Ukraine, then whatever has been happening globally. That is what Raila actually alluded to, the cost of living difficulties last year. And to be fair, the cost of what is the basic food here, maize flour, was actually much higher then than it is today. But then, of course, people expected that after the elections, we would actually have the new government intervening much faster. But they actually found a government that had not really been, had actually not run very well, even though the current president was a deputy president then. So as they try to actually even come to sync with what is happening and try to put their strategies to bring to bear, Raila is then coming back. Much as the situation is much better, you know, the problem has been data, and the government has under-communicated, or literally not communicated at all. Because if you look at numbers, then you will realize that the numbers today are actually are not as worse as they were last year in August or in June, when Raila was actually defending the government then. But then, of course, because people are angry, and of course, angry people are also hungry at the same time, he's harnessing that particular tide, harnessing that anger, and using it for purposes of pushing his own agenda. It should not be forgotten that, like I said earlier on, that has been Raila's modus operandi, because that is how he has operated throughout. He comes up using the people, and before you know it, he's deep inside government. There's been this joke about him being, or rather, acting like the camel in the desert. We've had a story of a camel that told a herder, it's so hot outside here, I just need the head inside the tent. And then, of course, can I bring in the neck because it's much hotter? And then can I bring in the hump? Before the hadder knew, the whole camel was inside the tent and the hadder was outside. He's done that before. In 1997, like I said, he joined the late President Moi in what they call a merger. In 2007, they had what we call the Government of National Unity. He has been the constant person in that. For him, he has rigged our electoral system in a way that he always finds ways of actually sneaking in. And where he does not find of coming in, then you actually see mass action for him is actually a tool for which he uses a lot of times to actually sneak into government.
Now we have studied what Raila Odinga's pattern seems to be like, but let's look at the present now. Odinga has said that he's agreeing to talk with Ruto, who on the other hand is saying that they will talk, they'll dialogue, but no handshake, right? So both of them are coming in headstrong in this and they're still dogged. So now he's saying that there will still be a protest if the talks do not go smoothly. With your own projections, what do you think the talks will, what do you think will be the resolution? Exactly. I mean, both of them, neither of them want to back down at this point. But they're just, it seems as though they're fronting, just want to talk to just resolve or maybe pretend to resolve, because a lot of people will say that they do not even intend to resolve this issue. But for the sake of the people, what do you project will happen after the talks?
The talks are actually going to be very stormy for obvious reasons that both the president's side, or rather the government side and Raila's side, have actually picked very strong extremist positions. And it seems like all of them are not reading from the same script, because the president suggested what he called a bipartisan parliamentary process. That means, from where I sit, the definition of a parliament is, if you look at a parliament, whether it is the Senate, a National Assembly, or whatever name you give to that particular congregation, the Congress, National Assembly, Parliament, Senate, whatever it is, normally a parliament for me, and that is the practice of the people within governance, is that a parliament is the reflection, or rather is the manifestation of a people as a government. So when you look at parliament, you see representation, you see the interest, and for us at least, you realize that
Okay.
I think once again we've lost touch with.
They having network issues with him there. He was speaking about the parliament, and I was going to ask him what would Ruto offer to Odinga right now that will make him back down, or that will make him just succumb. I've been racking my head around what exactly can he offer, because it looks like Raila is a man set on a particular mission, and until he gets it, he's not going to back down. He's certainly not going to get the presidency, because that has been off the chart already right now.
Well, so I think that somehow, people will say he's still delusional. So I feel like even though we say that he's, protesting for his own interest, if you also look at it deeply, it looks as though his interest in some way is aligned with the people. And this is why I said that. He protests now against the cost of living, the rising, economic crisis and all of that. And eventually, he probably feels that he can lead the people to protest against the government for not doing something about the cost of living. And once that begins, it will now become a protest for impeachment. So I think that somehow,
but sincerely, for me, actually, I feel that they've not given enough time to Ruto to do what he's supposed to do, because the debt toll on this particular country. Before Ruto came in, fine, he was the vice president, but of course we know how it can be with presidents and vice president and how much power they can have at different intervals. But the debt toll this country had before Ruto became the president was much. Well, corruption was in depth in this particular country. It's going to take time to set things right.
But truth is, there are different school of thoughts to that. Some people will say that, yes, they haven't given him enough time. But other people will say that more than 100 days is enough time to at least start something.
Yeah. The only thing I would fault,
you're making a move or making progress.
The only thing I would fault, which Maliba mentioned, is communication. And I remember during his campaign, Ruto promised transparency and he was going to communicate properly with the people. But it seems that he has not been doing that effectively. And noting that this is a man that has been known for good communication.
Yeah.
In fact, it's part of his pedigree that he knows how to communicate to people. He calls them my friend every time he wants to start a conversation with them.
Do we now say that the office has a way of changing?
Has a way of changing.
But anyways, we still have Maliba back with us. Maliba, can you confirm that you can hear us? Okay, while we still wait for Maliba. So, I mean, it looks as though, from the look of things, that maybe the office had a way of changing him. It could be that a lot of people were asking for accountability. Maliba, are you there with us? Okay, you know what? I think at this point,
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, Maliba has done justice
Yeah,
to the questions to some extent.
So, my other concern would be, what is the international community doing about this?
Well, so
we've had various issues across Africa.
Yeah.
We've had the DRC, Rwanda. We've had so many, and
Yeah.
there's little or no effort. We've had the junta taking over Mali. We had the junta taking over Cote d'Ivoire. There are so many, and the influence of the international community is almost left to nothing.
So the thing is, you speak as though it is very easy. I mean, gone are those days when the international community or international bodies can easily just interfere. Right now, the governments across Africa are standing headstrong and they're saying, do not interfere in this. It's happened in Nigeria, it's happened in Kenya, it's happened like everywhere.
Then what's the essence of the international
a lot of
body?
people, that's the thing, they do not want interference because they want to be in charge, right? Let's look at what happened in Nigeria, for example, the just recently concluded elections. The international body at some point wanted to intervene,
Yeah.
but, you know, because somehow it felt as though there was so much inconsistency in the result, it looked as though if the international body interferes, it's going to escalate. So they were like, you know what, you just
Stay
like
in your lane.
Nigerians would say day or day.
Day or day. Let's
do our
continue.
thing, you know. So I think that these days it's become more difficult for international bodies. And when you hear them, most times is they condemn, they do this, they do that. It's not exactly that they can go deep into it because it takes a lot of effort to want to intervene for a country that doesn't want your intervention. You know?
Well, that's speaking about the Westerns, and I'm more concerned about the African Union, which is made up of member body states that are there. So why are they not doing so much?
Well, anyways, it's been a beautiful first half of the show where we talked about the Ruto and Raila saga that has been going on for a while now. We want to thank Maliba. It's so unfortunate that we couldn't get him to speak extensively, but he still did justice with the little time that he had. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, the second half of Report Desk Africa. Don't go anywhere.